My grandmother's skillet is 90 years old. In that same stretch of my life, I have bought 9 pans and thrown away all 9.
Hers is on my stove this morning. The other 9 are in a landfill somewhere. Those 9 cost me better than $400, and every one of them died the same way, and it was not my cooking, and it will not be yours either. My name is Burl. I am 72 years old, and I have lived in these mountains my whole life. The pan was my grandmother's before it was my mother's, and it was my mother's before it was mine. Nobody in this family ever bought that skillet. It just kept getting handed down the line the same way the house did. I do not know exactly what year it came into the family. What I know is that my grandmother was cooking on it when the road up here was still dirt, and it is what I fried my eggs in this morning. Now here's the part that took me 30 years to see. Over all that time, I kept buying other pans. The first one came out of a catalog in 1979.
My wife and I were newly married, and that old skillet felt like something an old woman used.
Yeah.
We wanted the pan the young couples had.
It was slick and light and nothing stuck to it, and for about 2 years it was the best pan in this house. I am not going to pretend otherwise. Then the middle of it started to look cloudy. Then a little curl of the coating came up along the edge like paint coming off a porch rail. Then we were cooking around that spot instead of on it. Then we threw it out. That was pan number 1, and I did not think a thing about it. I figured I had done something wrong. I figured I had run it too hot, or scrubbed it too hard, or bought the cheap one. Let me tell you what the other 8 were, because the pattern is the whole point. Number 2 came from the same catalog, the heavier version, the one that costs more.
It lasted maybe 3 years. Number 3 was a set, 12 pieces, and in 9 years we only ever used 2 of them.
The other 10 sat in the bottom cabinet and got moved every time somebody looked for a lid. Number 4 had a red handle, and my wife liked how it looked hanging on the wall. That is a real reason to buy a pan, and I am not going to make fun of it. Number 5 had the word on the box. It said the coating would last a lifetime. I remember standing in the aisle and reading that word twice, because even then something in me did not believe it. Number 6, 7, and 8 all came from the same store out on the highway, bought about 4 years apart, which tells you exactly how long each one of them lasted. Number 9 was 3 years ago, and I will come back to that one at the end because it is the part I am least proud of. 9 pans. Somewhere around 35 years of buying and hauling out to the trash, and not one of them is in this house today. And the whole time, the 90-year-old one sat on the same stove and nothing happened to it. Why they die? I want to explain this properly because once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and it will change what you carry out of a store. That slick surface is a coating.
It is a layer of plastic bonded onto metal, and I mean that plainly. It is sprayed on and baked on at a factory.
A coating is a separate thing sitting on top of the pan. It is not the pan. And every single thing that happens in the kitchen is working against that layer. Heat is working against it. The coating starts breaking down somewhere around 500 degrees, and an empty pan on a hot burner gets there faster than you would believe. 2 minutes. 3 if your stove is slow. Metal is working against it. Every fork, every spatula, every whisk. You do not have to gouge it. You just have to touch it a few thousand times. The scrub pad is working against it. So is the dishwasher, which is hotter and harsher than anything you would do by hand.
And thickness is working against it too. Those pans are light because light is cheap, and a thin pan on high heat will warp.
Once the bottom is not flat, it does not sit right on the burner, and it cooks unevenly forever after that. So you are not doing anything wrong. You are using a thing that is designed to wear out in the one room in the house where everything wears out the fastest. And the industry is not even hiding it. Go read what they tell you, 3 to 5 years, and replace it. Read that again, because it is the whole video. The people who make the thing tell you how long before you buy another one. Now hold that up next to a pan from 1935 that still works. What cast iron actually is. Here is the difference, and it is not a small one. Cast iron has no coating. There is nothing sitting on top of it that can come off because the slickness is not a layer somebody applied at a factory.
It is oil. Oil that got heated until it stopped being oil. That is a real change, not a figure of speech.
Heat breaks the oil apart, and it reforms into a hard film that is bonded to the iron itself. It is not resting on the surface. It has become the surface. And here is the whole thing in one sentence. That surface is built by cooking. So every time you cook, you are building more of it. The nonstick pan gets a little worse every time you use it. The iron pan gets a little better. One of them is being spent. The other one is being made. That is not nostalgia, and it is not an opinion about the old days. That is just what the two objects are. There is one more thing iron does that the light pan cannot, and you feel it the first time. Iron is heavy, and heavy means it holds heat.
Drop a cold steak or a cold potato into a thin pan and the temperature falls off a cliff and your food steams instead of browning.
Drop it in the iron and the pan barely notices. That weight everybody complains about is the whole reason it works. The part they changed and never told anybody. Now I am going to tell you something about new cast iron that most people do not know. I did not know it either until my brother-in-law, who worked 20 years in a machine shop, put two pans side by side on my table. Take an old skillet and run your thumb across the inside of it. It is smooth like a creek rock. Take one off the shelf at the store today and do the same thing. It feels like fine sandpaper. They are both cast iron.
They were not both finished the same way. The old ones came out of the sand mold rough, exactly like the new ones do.
And then somebody put them on a machine and ground and polished that cooking surface until it was smooth. That step costs money and it costs time, and it is why those pans were slick from the first day. Somewhere around the 1950s and 60s, most of the foundries quit doing it. So the pan you buy brand new today is, near enough, the pan they used to consider half finished. I want to be fair about this. It still works. Season it long enough and the low spots fill in and it gets slick. But you're doing by hand over 2 or 3 years what a machine used to do in about a minute, and nobody mentions that when you're standing there with your wallet out. That is why a $12 pan at a yard sale is very often a better pan than the new one hanging in the store. How to tell a good old one when you see it. Since I have brought you this far, let me give you what to actually look for, because you are going to start seeing these pans everywhere now. Turn it over. If the bottom is smooth and it has a heat ring, that raised circle around the outside edge, you are usually looking at something old and well made.
Run your thumb inside like I said. You are feeling for glass, not sandpaper. Set it on a flat counter and press one edge.
If it rocks, the bottom is warped, and I would leave it. A warped iron pan is one of the few that really is finished. Then look it over in good light for a crack. A crack is the other one that cannot be fixed. Rust can. A crack cannot. And do not let rust scare you off, ever. Orange all over means the last owner thought it was ruined, and it means the price is low. Where the new pan actually wins. Now I have to be straight with you, because I am not selling anything, and there is nothing here for me to gain by lying. There are two things a nonstick pan does better than my grandmother's skillet, and they are not small things. The first one is eggs, soft scrambled eggs cooked low and slow with almost no fat in the pan. Nonstick will do that every morning without a complaint, and my skillet will fight.
I have been cooking on that pan for 30 years, and it will still grab an egg if my mind is somewhere else.
The second one is thin, delicate fish, a flounder fillet, something that wants to come apart when you look at it. On iron it sticks and it tears and you serve it in pieces. On nonstick it slides. So if you cook eggs every morning for 4 people, keep a nonstick pan in the house. Buy a cheap one, expect it to die, and do not feel bad about either part. That is the right tool for that job, and I would tell my own son the same thing. While I am being honest, iron has real limits too. Cook tomatoes or vinegar in it for an hour, and it will strip the seasoning right back off. Take it screaming hot and run it under cold water and you can crack it, and you cannot leave it wet, not even overnight. What I am telling you is narrower than
I am saying the nonstick pan should be one small pan in your kitchen for the 2 things it is genuinely better at.
It should not be all 12 pieces. It should not be the thing you cook everything in and replace every 3 years for the rest of your life. The night I understood, I want to tell you about one specific night because this is when it stopped being about pans for me. It was about 15 years ago. My mother had passed that spring and I was clearing out her kitchen, which is a job I would not wish on anybody. I had a box for keeping, a box for the church, and a pile for the dump. There were 4 non-stick pans in the pile for the dump, all of them hers, and all of them scratched down to the gray metal underneath. She had cooked around those bad spots for years and never said a word about it to me. And over on the counter, washed and dried and sitting by itself, was the skillet. I stood there in that kitchen with a cardboard box in my hands and did the arithmetic on my own mother. In her life, that woman bought and threw out, I do not know how many pans, maybe 10 of them.
Maybe closer to 15. And she had exactly one that outlived her. Nobody ever sold her that skillet. Somebody handed it to her.
I put it in the truck that night, and it has been on my stove ever since. How to bring one back. There's a very good chance you already own the pan I am describing. It is in a barn, or under a sink, or at your aunt's house, and it is orange with rust, and everybody in the family has decided it is finished. It is not finished. Rust on cast iron is almost never the end. Take steel wool to it and scrub every bit of that rust off, down to gray metal. Do not be gentle with it. You cannot hurt the thing. That is the entire point of the thing.
Wash it, then dry it on the burner until every drop of water is gone and it is too hot to touch.
Then the thinnest film of oil you can manage, thinner than you think. Put it on and then wipe it like you are trying to take it all back off, because the mistake everybody makes is leaving too much, and too much bakes into a sticky mess. Upside down in the oven at 450 degrees for an hour and let it cool in there overnight. Do that 2 or 3 times and you have a working pan. After that, just cook in it, because cooking is what actually finishes the job. Fry something fatty the first few times and go easy on the tomatoes for a while. And one thing that is not true, which I want to correct because my own mother believed it her whole life. Soap does not ruin a cast iron pan. That was true generations ago when soap was made with lye. The dish soap under your sink right now will not touch the seasoning. What ruins a pan is putting it away wet. The part where I was wrong. I told you I would come back to pan number 9. That was 3 years ago. I already had most of this speech in my head.
I already knew every single thing I have just told you. And I walked into a store and bought a non-stick pan anyway.
It was on sale, and I was tired, and the skillet was in the sink with something soaking in it. That pan is already going. 3 years, and the middle of it has that cloudy look I have watched come on 9 times now. So I am not up here telling you I am smarter than you. I am telling you I have done it 10 times, not 9, and the last one was after I already knew better. That is how good the selling is. It got me at 70 years old with a 90-year-old pan sitting 6 feet away from where I was standing. If you take one thing out of tonight, do not let it be a rule about pans. Let it be this. Look around the house you live in and ask which things are being spent and which things are being made. The pan that gets worse every time you touch it was designed that way by people who put a number on how long it should last and then printed the word lifetime on the box.
The pan that gets better every time you touch it was made by people who expected you to hand it to somebody. Go find yours.
Somebody in your family already bought it, and they were not planning on buying another one.